The movie begins by showing a forest where a few men are cutting down trees. As evening approaches, the supervisor realizes that one of the workers has gone missing. The supervisor asks for help over the radio, but no one responds. So he walks into the forest alone to search for the missing man. But inside the forest, he sees something terrifying up in a tree, and in fear, he rushes back to his car to escape. However, the creature jumps into his car and overpowers him, putting an end to his attempt to get away. The scene cuts here, and we move to a nearby town where we see Paul, the town sheriff, sitting in his garden, looking very sad. Just then, the owner of some horses comes to see him. He tells Paul that he had 13 horses, but now he only has 12 because one has gone missing. He asks Paul and his partner, Detective Donnie, to help him find the missing horse. While questioning the owner, Paul starts thinking that maybe the horse ran away after seeing the stable door open. So Paul reassures the owner that they will find his horse soon. But Paul doesn't take this case too seriously and heads home afterward. Paul goes to see his son, who lives with Paul's wife, since Paul and his wife are separated for some reason. Paul brings his son home with him and cooks dinner for both of them. His son asks when they will all live together again with his mom. Paul gently explains that it will take some time. While they're talking, Paul suddenly feels like someone is outside. He steps out to check, but there's no one there. When he returns inside, he makes sure his son sleeps comfortably. The next morning, Donnie comes to Paul's house and tells him that he found some animal tracks outside. Hearing this reminds Paul of the noise he heard last night, so he goes outside with Donnie to see the tracks. They notice the footprints leading from Paul's house across the road and into the forest. Paul and Donnie follow the tracks into the woods, where they find strange claw marks on the trees, as if some unknown creature had been there. Paul returns and asks the forest department officer about it, but the officer says he has never heard of such an animal and knows nothing about it. With no information about the creature, those footprints become a mystery for the entire town. And since the police are unable to figure things out, the people in the town start feeling anxious and unsafe. Paul tries hard to learn more about the situation, but he doesn't find any real clues. So he tells the townspeople that maybe someone was just playing a prank. After this, Paul is talking to the church's father, who says his dog suddenly went missing. And since this is the second report of an animal disappearing, the father officially files a missing animal report. Next, we see Paul's friend Donnie inside one of Paul's cabins. Donnie takes out a photo from the table drawer. It's a picture of Paul's other son, but Donnie doesn't know anything about that part of Paul's life. Later, when Paul goes to buy some supplies from a shop, the shop owner asks him about the strange creature that appeared in the town. A man standing nearby interrupts and says that his grandfather once told him about something dangerous living in the forest, something that could be a threat to them. Then he mocks Paul by saying how he is an officer who still hasn't managed to find the creature. Paul ignores him and walks away. Outside, a hunter meets Paul and tells him that the forest once had many deer, but now he hasn't seen a single one. Not just deer, other forest animals are also slowly disappearing. Hearing this, Paul starts feeling uneasy, but he still leaves to pick up his son from his wife's house. His wife tells him that even in the garden, people were talking about a monster entering the town. This makes Paul even more worried. Paul and his wife also have a complicated past. The reason for their separation is something very serious. After talking, Paul takes his son and drives back home. While driving, night falls. As Paul is talking to his son, suddenly an animal runs past their car. It's the same mysterious creature. Paul tells his son to stay inside the car while he steps out to look around. In the forest, he finds the belt of a missing horse, which belonged to a man they met earlier. This makes Paul realize that the creature might be responsible for the missing horse and the missing dog. But the creature itself is nowhere to be seen. When Paul returns to the car, his son is gone, and he panics. He rushes back into the house only to find that his son came inside on his own. Paul finally lets out a sigh of relief and hugs him tightly. Meanwhile, Donnie visits the hunter. They talk, and the hunter tells him a story his grandma once told him, that spirits used to live in the forest. He also tells Donnie about a boy who disappeared some time ago. People searched everywhere and later found him unusually high up in a tree, about 30 feet above the ground, something no ordinary person could have done. This is why many people believe there is a mysterious creature or forest entity harming both humans and animals. Donnie becomes very concerned after hearing this. The next day, Paul and his wife meet the school principal, who says their son is using inappropriate words and constantly talks about his older brother as if he were still alive. This older brother is the same child Donnie saw in the photo, and his tragic passing is the reason Paul and his wife separated. Because of this, the discussion turns into an argument, and they leave. Paul then stands alone at his son's grave, heartbroken. Donnie joins him there, but suddenly they hear a strange sound. When they step outside, they see a large group of birds flying away from the forest, heading south, even though they were supposed to migrate north. The way they fly looks like they're running from something. Donnie tells Paul that the hunter said the forest's natural balance is slowly collapsing collapsing, and now this sign makes him believe it. Both of them feel that something is seriously wrong in the forest. Donnie then tells Paul everything the hunter said and asks him about the missing boy, but Paul dismisses all of it, saying these cases don't prove the existence of any creature because he simply doesn't believe in such things. Later that night, Donnie is seen with Paul after fixing Paul's car. As they talk, Donnie shares how he became a police officer. Paul's wife also opens up about her past. She explains that when she had gone to visit her mother, both of their sons were at home. During that time, their younger son wandered alone near the swimming pool and accidentally fell in. Because of that tragic incident, they lost their child. Since Paul's wife holds Paul responsible for what happened, distance grew between them. That same night, Paul receives a call from the horse owner, so he and Donnie go to his place. The owner is extremely frightened and says someone was banging on his door. He explains that the sound didn't resemble anything a human or normal animal would make. He asks Paul to check the area with him, but Paul doesn't believe anything unusual is happening and tells the man it's probably just kids playing a prank. But suddenly they hear a loud noise from the shed. Paul decides to check it alone. Inside, he sees the same strange creature rushing away. They all quickly return home, shaken by what happened. The next morning, Paul and Donnie visit the horse owner again. They find scratch marks on the walls of his shed. Paul examines the tracks and tries to understand what kind of creature could make them, because no known animal has ever left markings like these. Later, Paul goes to a restaurant with his wife and son. While eating, his son asks when they will all start living together again. Paul feels emotional and tells him they just need some more time. That night, while Paul is driving home, he sees a deer lying on the road. When he steps out to check, the creature suddenly appears behind him and charges at him. Paul struggles but manages to protect himself before the creature disappears into the darkness. Terrified, Paul jumps back into his car and quickly drives away. The following day, Paul is at a bar with Donnie, where he tells him everything that happened last night. Now even Paul begins to believe that the creature is real. Meanwhile, 3 hunters, unaware of the danger, enter the forest to hunt. They don't know that the creature has been watching them. One by one, it attacks them, leaving no chance for escape. Later, Paul is passing through the forest. He stops and calls out for his son, feeling emotional and lost in his thoughts. Suddenly, an injured hunter stumbles toward him, barely able to walk. Paul brings him back and starts questioning him about what happened in the forest. The hunter explains everything, what he experienced and how the creature attacked them, sharing every detail he can remember. Hearing this, Paul and Donnie realize that the forest has become extremely dangerous. Just then, the same hunter from the bar calls Paul and urgently asks him to come to the forest. When they reach there, they find the hunters' bodies placed high up in the trees. Seeing this, Paul immediately orders everyone to evacuate the forest. He also contacts the forest department and requests them to block off the area so no one enters again. As evening approaches, the weather gets worse. Heavy snow begins to fall and the entire town stays indoors. Later, Donnie visits Paul, and Paul shows him a report stating that a team inside the forest has gone missing. It turns out to be the same group of lumber workers we saw in the beginning. Paul explains that clearing the forest may have caused these creatures to move freely into the open. At that moment, the store clerk arrives and shows them a videotape where the creature can be seen rushing past the camera before disappearing. Since it's already late, they decide to look into it further the next day. That night, while Paul is working alone, he hears a noise coming from his son's room. The creature has already entered the house, but thankfully, Paul's son is outside the room. Paul quickly pulls him away and hides with him in the bathroom. He then calls Donnie for help. When Donnie arrives, both of them attempt to trap the creature, but it escapes from the house. Realizing the town is in danger, Paul and Donnie gather all the townspeople and move them into the church for safety. But inside, they hear multiple creatures gathering outside the building. Paul sends everyone down into the basement while he and Donnie stay upstairs to defend them. One creature manages to break inside the church and injures Donnie. Before it can harm him further, Donnie fires a shot that hits the creature's shoulder, wounding it. Hearing the gunshot, Paul rushes inside and fires several rounds, forcing the creature to the ground. After some time, everyone comes out of the basement, relieved that the threat seems over. But then Paul and Donnie notice something shocking. The creature's wounds begin to close on their own. It starts healing rapidly and appears ready to attack again. This makes it clear that the creature is not ordinary at all. It's something far more sinister, almost like a demonic force. Outside, more creatures begin surrounding the church, gathering in the snow-filled darkness. It becomes clear that none of them are going to stop until they get what they want. In this tense and terrifying moment, the story ends, leaving everyone wondering what will happen next.